What is up, everybody? Sorry about this. Again, I'm new to YouTube and I was installing these parts over here, all these wonderful parts, and I was taking a car apart and I'm like, oh wait, I make YouTube videos now. Kind of got a head start. All you need to know is there's a couple bolts that I already removed. That's it. So I started removing the rear subframe bolts. I already took the little plate out, and then there's all the bolts. There's two in the middle, one on each outside, and then the big subframe bolts. Ooh. Once you have all that removed, the back is done. The next thing you need to do is remove strut tower bolts. So there's two here, two there, and then remove the wheels, obviously, and the brake hose. This is your brake line, and then this is your emergency brake line or your park brake line. I remove those two, and then what I'm doing also, I already did this on the other side, is removing the brake wire, just some slack there. That way I don't have to worry about that getting snagged on anything. This little plastic thing just comes right out, just like that. Tons of slack so you can let it drop. You don't have to worry about it. Alright, so the next thing you gotta do is remove the sway bar end link and the lower strut mount, or strut bolt. So sway bar end link and the strut bolt on both sides. And then right underneath here, you're gonna see this little part here. You gotta remove those two as well. Then the last bolt is just this bolt right here on both sides. Once we get that out, the whole subframe will drop. Well, we have that supported on it right now. Oh, the other thing too I read is to remove the exhaust hanger. That way the exhaust can move down a little bit as well. But yeah, that's it. So we're gonna go ahead and remove those, then drop this whole subframe down, and hopefully it doesn't fall on the floor. Alright, there you go. There's the last subframe bolt. So this subframe is loose in this vehicle right now. It's kind of scary. You can see it taking a lot of abuse. And it's still holding up pretty good though. It's a pretty big dent actually. Alright, here comes the scary part. So I have to slowly loosen this jack and let this whole rear subframe lower about 3 inches. So we're gonna be very careful, and hopefully nothing crazy happens. Oh, that feels weird. Did I forget something on that side or something? One side's definitely on 3 inches, the other side, not so much. Yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. We'll see what happens when I get this figured out. Alright, check back in a bit. Alright, got the struts out of both sides. I'm just gonna make sure this is nice and tight, because yeah, that's good. And now what we gotta do, put the new springs on this strut. It means we gotta remove the ready lift spacer, remove that, put the spring on, put the spacer back on, and then put this back in the car, put the subframe spacers on, bolt everything back up. Almost done. Finally got that off. These are the good old spring pressers. And there's the old spring. And these are the Rallytech Overland springs. You can see they're a much thicker spring steel. So it's probably gonna have a much better load carrying capacity on these, and it should provide a little bit of lift according to their website. So yeah. All right, so we got the springs put back together, strut and springs put back together. Now we just gotta put these spacers in. There's four in each corner, and these are the 22 mil wrench to get the top spot in. Basically, we're just gonna put the spacers on first, then bolt everything up, and then try to get these lined up. So, yeah. And we're running out of sunlight, so we might do the front end tomorrow. So yeah, that's where we're at. I'm gonna get these knocked in, and then I'll meet you back once I'm finished buttoning everything up. Yeah. I figured, so I'm losing daylight fast, but I wanted to show you guys something. So in the instructions, it doesn't mention anything about removing these little like factory bushings, but the bolts aren't long enough, so you have to remove these in order to get them to line up and fit and everything. So don't forget to remove these little top hat things, because the instructions, because the picture's not very clear, or I don't know, but they don't mention it. All right, so we got everything lined up, all the bolts in, haven't tightened them yet. And then we lined this one up, gotta do the same on the other side. And then you put in these little spacers, and you use the longer bolts that comes with. You want to do them along this entire thing, and you want to make sure you put this bracket on before you put this bolt in first, because I made a mistake of not doing that, and I had to get this bolt back out and do it all over again. So don't forget this. Let's do the next one. All these bugs are attacking me. So it's the next day, and we finished the back end of the car. So now it's doing this whole, like, I don't know what you call it, but like, what, bulldogging or something? I don't know. The back end's like way taller than the front. But I ran out of daylight, so we're gonna do the front end today. All we need to do on the front end is replace this spring with the new Rallytech spring. And so in order to get this spring out, we need to get this whole strut assembly out. And in order to do that, we just got to remove everything that's attached to it. So this bolt here, which has this brake line or brake hose attached to it, and then you have this either like an ABS line or a brake sensor. Remove that thing, and then also the bolt up here for the sway bar and link, and then these two bolts down here. And what we'll do is mark where these bolts are, not the nuts but the bolts. That way we can put them in the exact same position, and hopefully the alignment won't be so far off that you can't drive it. There's also these two bolts up here, 3 bolts, 1, 2, 3. So once we have everything unbolted, it should just fall out from underneath the vehicle, and then we'll go swap out the springs on the bench. So the struts are out of the front, and they're over on the bench, ready for me to swap out the springs. So got one of the coils off, and there's the springs. So again, it looks about the same thickness, but there's more coils on the Rallytech one. It is quite a bit, about 1 inch taller. But yeah, we'll just go ahead and throw the new ones on the strut, and then throw the strut back in the car. I don't know what happened to my pocket screwdriver, but you can use any flathead, and then you can just pop this off like so, and that'll give you the top strut bolt. But you don't want to undo this with these. They're pretty much just like a preloaded bomb. So if you were to take this off, this thing would go flying this way and put a hole through that roof. I'm not even exaggerating. Like, it has that much tension in it that would literally shoot this top cap, this strut mount and everything all the way through that roof and into the attic. So with that one removed, we can take this, put it on here, and then what you want to do is make sure that lines up in that little groove. That way when it sits down, it sits nice and flush. But now we gotta compress this whole thing in until I can put the vault back on with all the top mount and washer and everything. So yeah, let's do it. First the top hat, so don't forget the rubber bushing in there. And then I usually try to line it up with like the original spring, like there. But honestly, if you get a brand new one, it's not gonna have that mark. So it'll just make a new one if you don't have it lined up exactly. This is the difficult part because it is a little tight with that spring compressor there, but it should be able to clear. Alright, it should be good now. Put that there. Then that goes on there. That goes in there right there. Now we're ready to reinstall the strut. It's a little bit heavier than the other one. Holy crap, that thing weighs like a good 50 pounds more than the stock spring. I'm exaggerating, probably only like 20 maybe. I don't know. It's heavier. It's a lot heavier with the Rally Tech springs. You guys are not gonna believe this, but I was lining this stuff and putting the bolt in, and I noticed this thing has been here for quite a while. Wow. It's a little 6mm, probably like a hose clamp that I was removing, and I lost it. It's probably been in there for like thousands of miles. It's crazy. It's probably just not a 10mm. So remember that when I told you I was making a mark to line everything up again? So you see there, that's a little chisel mark. There's the same one. There's a little chisel mark right there. And there's another one on this bolt that I made. Now you could just use the lines, but I don't know how to do alignment, so I'm just gonna rotate this bolt until that chisel mark, oh, sorry guys, lines up there. So now you have the chisel mark on the nut or the bolt, and the chisel mark on the actual like strut tower. And when I hold this in place with this wrench while you tighten this bolt in, same thing on the bottom. So now just tighten that up, put everything we took off back on. I'm including the sway bar end link and whatnot, but we're almost done. Oh my god, actually. Oh, okay, that's just the paint. I was gonna say that ready lift sway bar bracket is bent. It is bent. The sway bar bracket is bent, and the paint's peeling off. I thought that was a crack. Oh well, it's all good. Almost done. I think we're probably just gonna catch back in when it's all built, because that's all you really need to do. Other than that, just put the tires back on, and I'll take it for a spin. I'll get cleaned up first because I don't want to mess up my nice interior. Well, there you have it. It's all done. So we got the springs in on the front, the Rally Tech springs, all nice and blue. And then we got the Anderson Fab Design multi-link spacers in the rear, as well as the Rally Tech springs. And then it's kind of weird because it's got like a whole bunch of different parts from different manufacturers. So it's got the Ready Lift 2-inch spacer lift for the strut mounts. So on top there's the Ready Lift spacers on front and rear. Then we have the Anderson Fab Design multi-link spacers in the rear to drop the whole subframe down, and all that linkages a little bit further down, so it's a nice flat angle. And then that just helps with ride quality, as well as keeping that rear wheel centered and not moving side to side when it flexes and hitting the wheel arch. And then we had the Rally Tech springs. So it's kind of like I picked and choose the different manufacturers that I liked, and there's a reason behind it. I really liked the ReadyLift spacer kit because it was a lot more engineered. There's a lot more thought process put into it. The Anderson Fab design is really nice. Same thing with the Shoot Performance, but they're really expensive, and I didn't read anywhere, and looking at the design of those, they don't seem to have a camber correction or geometry correction, whereas the ReadyLift does have a geometry correction built into them. The Anderson Fab design and the LP Adventure lift kit look like they just literally just raised the, it's just like a spacer, which is fine. It'll work perfectly fine, but I liked having that geometry correction because I mean, it's that they put a lot more engineering effort into it, meaning there's a lot more CAD, a lot more simulation that was put into it. Yeah, that's why I went with the ReadyLift, because they had that correction built into it. You kind of see it from the spring. It's like the strut, that spacer has like a little offset and then a twist to it, and that's all done to keep everything in line. He's good, and then I got to schedule an alignment because I'm gonna need to get this aligned after all that. But yeah, everything's bolted back up. Everything looks good. Nothing broke. The rear end was the hard part. The front end's the easy part. It took me about 4 hours through the rear and then like 2 hours through the front. The rear is just a lot more complicated because you got to drop that subframe and wiggle it around to line up all those bolts. But yeah, not too bad. 7-hour job, about 6-7 hours. So, and I probably would have done it faster if I wasn't filming. But yeah, not too bad, not too bad.